Hey guys, most of you may know who I am. My name is William Newman. I'm spearheading this thing called The Resistance. With me, I've got my partner, Dean Donnell. Dean's going to be giving us some important takes on what we have going on in our communities. So, with that being said, let's get to know Dean a little bit.
Hello, my name is Dean Donnell, better known on TikTok as East Coast Double D. I am born and raised in Nashua, New Hampshire. I have known Will for well over a good amount of time now.
Elementary school, I think.
Yeah, like quite literally, like very early elementary school. We used to be best friends. We're still good friends. When I found out his motivation to actually get the government more transparent, especially our local government, I immediately wanted to hop on board. I 100% fully support his, his ideals, his motivation, his message. So I'm just here to, try to solidify that movement a little bit more, with the mix of his following, my following, try to get some stuff done.
Yeah, so everything that you just mentioned about the resistance, I gotta say, I greatly appreciate that. To be honest, when I first fired up the resistance, I didn't realize the impact I was having. Like the first 2 weeks I was doing it, I thought I was just throwing videos out there, and I almost felt like I was just talking to myself. But little by little, you gain a little bit more confidence and a little bit more traction, knowing that you're not just talking out of your ass and that you're addressing real problems. It's a big mountain that you got to overcome when you're tackling issues like this, because you know this. You're silenced. People try to encourage not stepping up to the plate and, being someone of courage. And that strength factor has been removed from society, which is one of the reasons why I believe the government is starting to take advantage and tee off on all the citizens, because I don't think the citizens know exactly what to do or where to start when it comes to battling an entity so massive like a corrupt government. There's a lack of confidence as far as that goes. And I remember one of our buddies, we know, I prefer not to keep names on the podcast just for respect reasons. But I remember I was sitting in his truck not too long ago, maybe about like 2 years ago or so. And, we were talking about the problems in the world. And I says, what we really need is we need one person who has the courage to address this. And we need a time and a place. If we have those two things, if we have a time and a place, and everyone who agrees with that message meets in that room, that is the moment when everyone's going to start to develop the conviction and look around and see how many heads that there is. And I think the resistance is starting to do that. When we started the resistance, we saw like 7 followers on the Only Resistance Instagram page. And now we're starting to see 200 on TikTok. And now we're at like 30 something on IG. And all these different platforms. These numbers really add up. So a message to all of you guys, you're not alone. Quite frankly, our adversaries are outnumbered. You guys just need to show yourself. You guys need to get with the resistance, as I say at the end of every little clip that I post.
And just to give a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
You can be any political identity in order to join the resistance. You can be liberal, conservative. You have people on the far-right conservative side who don't want to have anything to do with people on the left, and then you definitely have people on the left who don't want to have anything to do with the people on the right. I think it's about finding that middle ground, because I think both sides have a bunch of good stuff to offer without me actually coming out on which side I'm on. I do believe that there is some sort of middle ground we can meet in. So you don't have to be any political identity to actually join the resistance. You just have to believe that there is definitely a corruption in our government, whether it's local, federal, quite even worldwide. I mean, there is corruption absolutely almost everywhere in the world right now. And like my main man, Will Newman, is trying to do is trying to just make that more transparent. And we are going to do everything in our power to try our best to make that transparent as possible, which, you know, according to the Constitution, it should be completely transparent.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are starting to forget the Constitution. I think that's the school's fault. But you couldn't be more spot on about all the battles that I know the government has sparked between multiple different community groups. We have black people versus white people. We have Republicans versus Democrats. You know, we have men versus women. I mean, there's all different types of battles because they know damn straight that if we start merging a couple people together that are a little different and find some common ground, that's when the dangers of the corruption is going to come to an end. And I hope we're starting to see the beginning of that. But time will tell as far as that goes. You couldn't be more spot on.
Just I don't know if this is like for like a later segment or whatever. Just something that literally just came to my mind. For white versus black people, I noticed that my 2-year-old daughter, who is white, on one of her favorite shows, details people of color. She doesn't ever say, like, hey, daddy, like, why is that person not my color or anything. So I think racism is actually taught. So to not actually influence your kids or give your kids, even if you are influenced, to not push that on your kids is the best thing to do. Just like I'm sure kids of color don't look at a white character and go, hey, like, why is that character white? Like, kids that young don't actually believe or know of racism. And it completely actually breaks my heart that it is actually it would be very, very easily probably to influence my daughter that character of color is the bad one. It would be very easily to do that, but she doesn't feel that in her heart. She doesn't naturally see that. So like racism is 100% taught, and I'm glad to see it, like especially in the South, getting like a lot better than it was.
You were talking to me a lot about the South, things that I didn't know because I don't travel too often.
Yeah, they're getting a lot more. The population of colored people in the South has increased significantly, and I wouldn't want to say forced, but they have been coexisting for quite some time now under new laws like non Jim Crow laws. And kids as young as my daughter have been growing up with each other, and it's kind of like the older people down south that tend to be more racist, but the younger generations actually seem to be picking something up about equality and you're pretty much judged down south right now by your morals. Like if you're a thief, if you're a liar, if you're another number of things that have nothing to do with race or sexuality, you will be judged. Absolutely.
As you should.
But as far as just race goes, they seem to actually be picking it up, and I'm talking about like the southernmost part of Alabama, where I actually lived in for a year, 2 years. Uh, it actually makes me very happy that they're picking that up, uh, and just all around the country in general.
Yeah, no, I don't think you could have said it better. Look, in general, people are mad. People are fed up. We don't know what's going on with our government. The National Police Department website has been down for. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I could be wrong on this. They've been down for about 8 months. I think it's been longer, and that's where all of the public records are. So there's no transparency as that goes. And I'm personally spearheading the resistance. I'm not at the point yet where I'm starting to dig up those details, but that's part of the plan. And I'm going to go into that a little further into the discussion, talk about some of the officers that we have. You're representing one of those officers, so thank you for all your service as far as resistance wise goes, and we're going to be amplifying that up big time. But yeah, we can't trust the government. We don't know what's going on. They're not willing to tell us. They're using our money to purchase things that I bet you if we went around and took a survey on, none of the population would approve of. And unfortunately, a lot of this money that is just being thrown away is really just being used to weaponize against us, against good people. We're prioritizing our attacks on the wrong people, on the people that wake up every single day and try and go to work for hours upon end, working 2 jobs, and in really shitty situations working 3 jobs and going nowheres, getting no progress. People are getting tired of that. People are getting tired of being targeted by law enforcement because we're investing all this equipment on catching people going 7 miles over the speed limit when, as what you told me, we've got a lot of children missing. A lot. I'm going to be honest, I try to keep my head out of the news, but you've enlightened me as far as that goes. We've got a lot of children missing. We've got a lot of drugs. We've got a lot of violent crimes going on that could be prevented. We got to remember, law enforcement's used to prevent crime, not go after crime after it's happened. That's a failed job.
We have one of the worst, and I mean worst, condition jails that is privately owned. I'm not going to say the race or what the people are, but it's privately owned by 3 different doctors. It is quite literally the worst rated, or in the top 5 rated county jails in the whole entire country. It is extremely brutal in Valley Street. Multiple people have passed away due to negligence. We have YDC, the Youth Detention Center, that's actually under current investigation to this day. Over $100 million has been awarded. I'm actually on that lawsuit for things that have happened to me in there, and this is a jail for minors specifically. And I was actually in there for weed, marijuana crimes. And I got quite literally tortured when I was in there. It can always be worse in different areas, I guess. Everybody can always have a worse day. I'm still breathing. I'm still talking to y'all. But our just criminal system is overboard. You can actually cut this out if you need to, but it's so bad to the point of sexual assaulters that this would quite literally never reign in any other prisonal facility. In New Hampshire, Concord, I believe it is, they quite literally have a gang called Saints, which is sexual assault isn't that serious. Or is not, my bad, sexual assault is not that serious. There is a quite literal gang of sexual offenders in Concord prison, which like California, Florida, Texas, that's almost laughable to you guys that might be watching this. But our not only sexual offender issue in New Hampshire is off the charts. But New Hampshire has actually also made it a hate crime, which means if you beat somebody for brutalizing a kid underage, that is the same exact crime as beating somebody up for being homosexual. Which I don't think those two things fit in the same category whatsoever. This state has gotten quite literally out of hand. For a state that says live free or die, our gun laws are still completely good, in my opinion. But
comparatively,
I mean, comparatively to the rest of the country, we probably have the best gun law.
all right. Thanks for sharing those important details. As I said, I asked a little bit about that circumstance just because, in my opinion, it sounds like the state handled that in a very slopper mannerism. Sounds unprofessional, and it sounds like it's some of the things that we're trying to crack down on. I think we're victimizing too many good people and not going after the bad people, and I think it's causing a little bit of a decay in our society. So we got work to do. And as far as work goes, this podcast is a very important one because these clips that we commonly see in the resistance that are very attractive and eye-catching, and they're a minute long, they're 50 seconds long, they're hard-hitting, they sound good, and they are good. But what we really need is details. What we really need is an articulate plan. And that's the one part that gets left out in those short, powerful clips, is all those fine details that is required to keep this thing going. And not just going, but going effectively. So I want to give you a little bit of an update on the resistance, where it is right now, where it's expected to be, where we want it to be, and some of the steps that are necessary to get there. The most important part of the resistance right now is the sheer growth in numbers. We need numbers, and we need numbers for a multitude of reasons. Numbers is good. Numbers is power. Numbers is higher probability of having more qualified individuals and some of our more important roles.
Numbers is hope.
Numbers is hope. And numbers is visual hope. Growth in numbers. Numbers is very important. The most important part about having these numbers on our side is having the ability to have impressive sharing power within our communities. Unfortunately, we have some news networks that are contaminated and poisoned with the wrong information. And if you're a smart individual, you just tune out of the news. It's just not even worth watching. There's some narrative behind it. Even if the news is 90% correct or 95% correct, it's worded just right to guide you down a path that is expected you to follow. So the importance of us having these numbers is all of you guys need to understand this. All of you guys who are following the resistance, who most of you who are nodding your head to the resistance, are all in a very, very tight area. There's probably hundreds of you right now. You just don't even, until all of you guys get into a room and you look around and you see the heads, you don't even realize how many of you are. Once all of you guys start sharing real news, real info, things going on in the community, we start waking up all the people within our zones of living. and it allows us to act better, more efficiently on critical issues in your town. Because what's going on in your town could be a little different than what's going on in my town. So we've got to handle that accordingly.
In my opinion, one of the main things is just understanding the law more, and then potentially even getting the resistance to tweak the law to actually make more sense. Even though it's harder, I remember being in the 5th grade and being threatened because I had actually flicked an eraser at one of my friends. It had missed him. It had actually hit the woodshop teacher in the chest. It was like a little mini piece of an eraser cap I had ripped off of a pencil. They were threatening me with assault with a weapon.
Yeah.
Not a deadly weapon, but assault with a weapon. And that would be the same thing as if, like, like I threw, that lit this lamp at you or something like that, which is crazy. But, because the law is so flippity floppity and hard to narrow down, they just classify it all as into one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people who are getting charged with things that somebody who did significantly worse than they did would get charged with. So I think the law needs to be broken down more, even overcomplicated with people who are actually able and eligible to do the job. Because right now, with an oversimplified law that pushes people together almost in certain situations, the cops can't even follow that. Not all the cops. There is good cops. I'm going to say that right now. There's police officers out there who wake up with nothing but the intentions of defending and protecting their community. Unfortunately, that is not every single police officer. There's actually a fair good amount of police officers who do the opposite almost. It's almost like they wake up and the power's already in their head. And, they might wake up in an argument with their significant other, their child, their boss, and now all of a sudden they're bringing it out on you because they have that power to bring it out on you. Now, if I wake up and I'm angry, I can't, beat up Will because I'm angry at him. An officer can do it and sometimes can actually justify it, which is completely wrong. Nobody should have to feel feared by the cops. You should not, see those blue sirens behind you, for you, not for you, and genuinely get scared, which way too much of the population is right now. And that's including many, many, many people who aren't breaking the law. Excluding speeding, something like that. No narcotics in the car, no weapons, no warrants, no nothing like that. But yet they still get this deep fear in them when they see those blue lights. And unfortunately, there's been many situations where people have gotten evidence planted on them. Very, 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 very hard to beat that. That's why every single time, I don't care if you think those people are Karens, don't give the officer a hard time. Make the easiest possible scenario. Comply with what you think is in the legal rights, but always record. Always have your own recording of what that cop's doing. Because body cams can, quote unquote, shut off, forgot to be turned on, and anything can happen. So don't be a Karen and, press him on every single thing he's asking you. But
if anything, do the opposite and keep
Yeah.
your damn mouth shut.
Yep. Yeah, don't even talk, honestly, if you don't have to. But I see a lot of people instigating cops. That is a thing. I don't like cops. I'm not a fan of cops. Don't instigate the dude or the woman, but definitely record. Just always keep a recording on your person if you can.
You know what? This is taking a unique turn, and I want to go down this turn shallowly before we continue. You mentioned a couple good points there, and I wrote them down so I don't forget. And it's something that our Secretary of Resistance Operations brought up as well. So you guys have a mind that thinks and congruent to mine, which is good. There are good cops. And, I think everyone's opinion on how many can change, but I'm going to sit here and say that a huge majority of the police officers are actually really good people. Um, Unfortunately, I think there's a couple here and there that are no good, but I think the majority of them are really good.
There's a decent amount that are questionable.
Sure.
But there's many, many, many good cops.
Sure.
Like you just said.
So what I don't want is some narrow-minded idiot to quickly view some of these resistance clips and sit here and say, this guy doesn't like police. This guy's not for law. That's incorrect. But as our Secretary of Operations mentioned very wisely, and she worded it better than I could. I think I described it better, but she worded it articulately. The higher you go up the totem pole in law enforcement, the more corrupt it gets. And this is the problem. I've always believed that the problem isn't police, but it is police departments. Because without your money, it doesn't run the way they want it to.
That is true.
And this is why people are mad. This is why people are fed up. They feel targeted. They're concerned when they get pulled over, when they know they're not in any deep hot water for going 7 over the speed limit. But people are intimidated, and they're tired of having their resources, their tax money that gets raped from them every single week, being allocated to the wrong areas. So there's a prioritization in law that needs to start happening.
There's so many things to the law, and at the same time, there's not enough training to become an enforcer of that law, which if you enforce that law, I should not be able to teach you anything about that law. You should get to the point where you basically know 100% of the law you're enforcing. You might not be able to say numbers like, 2.5 in document section, whatever, but you should know the laws. And you should know what you're doing. Like, nobody should ever have to call a supervisor. But unfortunately, that's the case. And then, like I said, sometimes even the supervisor has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But that's more rare than not. I mean, you usually have to earn your way up. You're in the force for a while before you become like a supervisor. I also don't want to become too sympathetic to cops. But at the same time, like you said, like I said, there's plenty of just cops that they just wake up, man. They just want to go back home to their daughter, their son, their house, their wife, their life. They're not bad people at all.
No, they're not. They're not. One more small, quick little thing before I move on with this is you were bringing up the assault. It needs to be articulated better, and I think the emotion aspect needs to be removed from assault, because if we poke a police officer in the arm, that's assault. But if a police officer puts their hand on our chest and shoves us back, that's not assault.
Well, it is assault if it's unwarranted. So that's why there's body cams now, and that's why I also said you need to record, because if they do put their hand on your chest for no reason,
right,
that is assault. But for the most part, they get away with it.
Yeah.
They find a way to, there's a reason why they did it. They almost always get away with it, like 80% of the time.
Right. So there are levels of inconsistency to that. So yeah, that's something I just wanted to cover real quick. But our number one thing in the resistance, and the thing that we're doing right now, is growth. The second thing that is actually very critical in the resistance is officers stepping up to the plate in the resistance. We've got 2 vacant spots right now, and that is the Chief Operating Officer of Operations or the assistant leader spearheading the resistance. It's a very critical part for a multitude of reasons. I can actually make a whole separate clip dedicated to that, but we have that void, and we have another void, and that's in the Tactical Operations Officer. as much as it sounds like war and, firing bullets, I don't think we're in a time frame or day and age where that would be an appropriate way to fight. And it's also our duty to make sure that doesn't happen. We can reach our goals without having to fire bullets. So it sounds like it's an actual bloodshed type of commander position, but that's just not the way it's going to work in today's day and age. But we do need someone to spearhead very direct situations. So we need those two positions filled. And then under those positions, we need a team of people, a team of people that are willing to help push these things to move us closer to a community that's worth living in. So involvement, share the content, become an officer, become an officer underlink. Just get curious, start asking questions. What can I do? What should I do? When should I join? Get with the resistance. That's basically the motto that we're rolling with right now.
I absolutely need people to help me out with making content media. Absolutely, I need help. I might be the head of it. I'm not a ruler with an iron fist. Not everything I say goes. Whatever. I need a team I can work with and just lead. And I wouldn't even say lead as much. That's just my position. Just be able to work with and anybody with good ideas for media content. I am more than willing to work with and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think
we need people for every position to help with every position. So
we do. It's gonna move more fluidly with those positions filled. So I'm gonna be honest. I've been so freaking busy this week. I haven't really gotten a chance to talk to you as much as I normally do. The fact that you stated that, thank you for doing that. It gives me, an idea of where I need to gear my attention. We have a Secretary of Resistance Operations, and I'm thinking I'm gonna talk to her, and I'm gonna see if she's able to poke her head in the podcast. And in upcoming weeks, we'll see what her schedule's looking like. But she's been a tremendous asset to this team. Some of you guys probably received a message from her. So if you do see a message come in from her, don't be spooked out or, curious as to who this is. I'll make it very clear on all of our social pages, who's filling what role. So far, she's been an assassin to this team. I think she's been deadly. She's helped me out in a ton of ways that I couldn't fathom getting my hands on, especially with the rigorous schedule that I have. So, this whole team-oriented environment is crucial, but this shouldn't be a daunting task. If everyone picks up some stones and moves them, we're going to be able to move mountains. So, everyone does a little something, and we should have fun with it. We should enjoy the process of moving towards progress. So that's the way I see it. This isn't even a thing of money. I've told you this in the past. I do not care about money. I think there's a potential for money to be involved. And
to get pumped right back into the resistance.
Exactly.
That's the whole point of building a business, Yeah. I mean, even Jeff Bezos went nonprofit for a while, just putting his main profit back. He was making just as much as his employees for the most part for a while. You just got to keep pumping it back in and watch it grow. Take care of the fees you owe, the things you need to do, but like I even told you, I wouldn't even accept payment for anything because I believe in this movement and you shouldn't have to get paid for something like that you believe in unless, if I was over here digging trenches, hey man, I probably need a couple of bucks. But,
yeah.
But, it's, when you're doing something you believe in, shouldn't even want to get paid. It's something that we love. This is a country we want to save, a state we want to save, just a world we want to save.
Yeah.
And not even save, just make transparent. We want to know exactly what's happening, and that's what the whole Constitution definitely entails. Is like we need to know what excuse my language, but like what the hell the country is actually doing, because Trump is now releasing all the JFK files. He actually just released the Bill Clinton tapes. It's like, why isn't this all stuff we already knew? Like, why are presidents, why are leaders able to do these things and get away with it for so long? Like the Epstein's list, we're still waiting on that. It's things that actually get my blood boiling. For the most part, I try to hide it. I try not to show too much emotion. But there's a lot of corruption, and hopefully this party, along with Kash Patel, can actually, get most of those things exposed. And hopefully we can do as much as we can to also expose them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that part was well said. Yeah, we're looking for transparency. So, there's actually a couple members in the resistance, you obviously being one of them, but there's, I think, one or two more members. I would like to give a shout out to the other member, but I just want to be respectful of names. I don't want to put too many names out here, but there's an individual who messaged me on Instagram. You're probably going to see this. I'll even send a little, short edited clip directly to you. But, you very specifically said, I don't want money for this. After, I offered you money for the services that he provided, it seems like you have some interesting things going on down in Massachusetts. And I first of all, I'm going to ask you if you're okay with talking about this. I know you said this a couple of weeks ago, but I just want to verify this because this is almost classified information as far as you go.
There's some details I can't, or, for the betterment of my, situation, can't detail, but I can give about like 95% of it.
Whatever you feel comfortable doing, you're not forced to. I'm asking this specifically because this relates back to, there's some specific details that you brought up, and I'll ask you about those as we go on in the discussion, but some of the government officials aren't upholding their oath, their duties. Tell what you're willing to tell.
Okay, so from where I can start, this picture, it's a actually pretty fairly decent weather night, full moon actually. You're driving. I had 2 alcoholic beverages, beers to be specific, hours before I had driven. Made sure I was, good enough to drive because I actually am against intoxicating driving to the point where, your driving is actually impaired.
Me as well.
I'm literally just driving. Somebody had actually came up to the side of me. The back end of their car had hit me. I had plowed into a guardrail.
Well, where was this at this point?
So this was on the Lowell Turnpike coming to Nashua.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had actually ran into a guardrail. It all happened so fast. Right after he hit me, my main instinct is now I have to follow this guy. I have to go off route to follow this guy. So obviously when he hit me, I started to turn a little bit. As I'm turning the wheel to, keep going straight, the wheel keeps turning and turning and turning. Now all of a sudden I'm plowing into the guardrail. Turns out he either popped one of my tires, messed up my alignment, whatever had happened. The whole car was totaled after the crash. So it's hard to say exactly what the specific damage was on the point of impact. All I know is I couldn't steer, and I didn't have time to react. My head had actually hit the radio in the center console so hard that it had popped out of place. Horrible accident. I had fractured 2 ribs, got a severe concussion. I've had concussions in the past. Never had one like this. I'm talking seeing things in reflections. It was one of the worst I've ever had. I had somehow managed to get a phone call off to my ex. My ex girlfriend. I do remember having my head on the steering wheel, talking to her on speaker, pretty much like in tears, just like telling like, hey, I crashed, blah blah blah. They get a sheriff there. Took so long for one to get there.
When was this? What year?
Ooh. This is 2022, I believe. November of 2022.
Okay.
I don't remember the exact date. I can look all this up, or people can look it up. Just look up Dean Donnell versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You'll be able to figure it out.
I'll put a little clip of that in.
Yeah. So the first thing that they were actually worried about was like, hey, are you under the influence? Not like, are you okay? Do you need medical treatment? Like what happened? Like I look up, I still have tears in my eyes, like because I'm so beyond disoriented. They asked me to do a field sobriety test.
This is the police.
Yes.
Lowell police.
Yes, this is the Lowell police.
Okay.
They never had actually, like, hey, do you want medical? I never, ever, ever got offered medical treatment. I'm literally like can barely talk, can barely move, can barely walk. I have 2 fractured ribs, and I'm still willing to do the sobriety test. Damn near passed it. Got a couple things wrong. Slightly, like very slightly, and this is for somebody who's extremely recently concussed with, once again, 2 fractured ribs, who just got into a severe car accident. They had took me down to the station. They had breathalyzed me. I had blew a .079, and he did not tell me that.
This is at the station?
Yeah, this is at the station. So I had blew a .079, and then I had blew a .08, like on the dot, or a .079, and then a .08. So I actually beat the breathalyzer the first time, and then the second time, it dialed me in exactly, I guess. And before I had actually went to the state, I had to do a security check to tow my vehicle. I actually had a firearm that was completely dismantled, completely, like all that stuff.
Broken up into pieces.
Yeah. The only thing I was missing was a lock on the container I had it in. So completely out of my reach, completely, it wasn't tucked in my pants. I wasn't riding around with any narcotics, illegal drugs, any enemies, nothing like that. Like I was a complete law-obeying citizen.
I know the gun laws in Massachusetts are pretty strict.
They are. So pretty much what the judge had ruled was, because I was simply traveling through Massachusetts, and not actually trying to reside or stop for anything other than, gas, anything like that, that's like a necessity, that it's pretty much like a travel law. Like you respect your state's laws that you live in, as long as you're traveling specifically. Obviously, I wasn't trying to move or living in Massachusetts. And his biggest point, which actually surprised me, like I would have never been able to come up with this point, and I'm surprised my lawyer didn't even say this. This was the judge in the Pheasant Lane Mall. On one side of Target, you are a legal gun carrying citizen. On the other side of that same Target, which the mall, if nobody knows, the Pheasant Lane Mall borders Kingsborough, Mass. On the other side of the Target, you are now a felon. So on one side of Target, you're a gun carrying legal citizen. Now you walk to the other side and you're a felon. That doesn't make sense. Best gun laws, and probably still to this day. A lot of corruption in New Hampshire right now that a lot of people aren't aware for the live free or die state. That's it's a little weird.
We've got some investigating to do. We got some work to do. not just you and me, but all of you guys tuning in.
When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty.
Starting a guard for a parking problem.
The Matrix is a freak.
You can't fight a battle by yourself.